guys, it is BJ, and you are listening to the Soul Patterns podcast, or you are currently watching my YouTube channel where I teach all things about becoming your greatest self and spiritual alignment, self mastery, things like that. So, the last few videos, we had been discussing how to set up your spiritual altar, how to use your altar to your advantage, things like that. And while I love teaching about altars, I do want to make sure that I transition to teaching you guys about becoming the greatest version of yourself. So, if you weren't really into the altar stuff, then we're moving on, child. So the stuff that we're going to be talking about now is becoming your higher self, becoming your greatest self. And that's going to be a series that I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks. So I'm really, really excited to share this information with you guys. The first presentation I want to do for you guys today is about how to become your true self, just like super high level. Same thing I did with the altars. I'm going to give you guys some just like groundwork baseline information. And then over the course of me teaching you, we're going to get into more and more detail. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. But before I do that, I do want to make sure I let you guys know that I am active on TikTok right now. I am focusing on using my TikTok to teach people how to read tarot. Just because I don't want to muddy the water of what I'm teaching on my channel and on my podcast with tarot. So I figured I would use a different platform for that. So my platforms are really doing different things, right? Like my Instagram is just so that you guys can stay caught up with when I'm releasing new podcasts and YouTubes, but it's also has like inspirational quotes and things like that. Whereas, of course, like my podcast is mainly for teaching spiritual practices and teaching you guys about becoming the greatest version of yourself while you're here on earth. And my TikTok is going to be about tarot and teaching you guys how to read tarot cards, how tarot cards work, things like that. And I might start teaching things about like different archetypes and teaching like history and stories and like how to like different archetypes that you find in movies and things like that. So that's going to be specifically for my TikTok. And my TikTok is BJ the Blogger. So if you're interested in things like that, then you can check it out. Otherwise, you can continue to just receive my content through my YouTube and my podcast. All right, so we're going to get started with the presentation today. All right, so this presentation is called Becoming Your True Self. So in becoming your true self, in my opinion, and like I'm always going to tell you guys, all of the information that I'm teaching you guys is through my own research, through my own experiences, and my own personal inner knowing. You can just listen and take it in and use whatever information feels good for you, and then develop your own beliefs and develop your own feelings about, some of the things that we're talking about today. So don't feel like I am the all-knowing person in the world, because I'm not, and I don't intend to pretend like I know everything. I really am just here to inspire you guys to do more research and learn more and understand what your own inner knowing is telling you. So I'm just here as a spark, right? And then whatever you guys want to do with the information, then by golly, do whatever you want with it. But in my opinion, becoming your true self is about merging who you were when you came on this earth, like the soul and the spirit that came on this earth, and the intention that you and the lessons that you came on the earth to the complete, and whatever your soul wants to express on this earth, whether it is artistic or it's loving others or it's experiencing things or overcoming fear, whatever things that your soul or spirit came on this planet to do. In my opinion, it's about merging your true soul spirit self at the molecular level, merging that with the programming of your mental health in your brain. Because you have to understand, when we were born, we were in our truest form. We were our truest selves when we were born. But over the course of us being exposed to different experiences and environments, and being influenced by people and culture and things like that, it started to influence who we thought that we were. But and a lot of that mental programming causes us to have traumas and triggers and belief systems and feelings that ultimately influence our emotions and our actions inside of our day-to-day life. So in my personal opinion, we have to spend a lot of time on the earth as adults rediscovering who we originally were. So when I talk about becoming your true self, I'm talking about conducting the reprogramming necessary in order for you to get back to who your true self was. So that is removing the layers of programming, removing the layers of trauma and trigger and fear in order for you to get back to who you truly are, inside, and what your soul is trying to experience and what your spirit is trying to experience on this earth. So that's what I mean when I say becoming your true self. And sometimes I'm going to say becoming your higher self, becoming your greatest self. So we're going to talk about what all of that means as well. All right. So, what exactly is the difference between the higher self and the soul? And honestly, I know like a lot of people probably um, feel a little bit confused because sometimes I say both of the things, and it can be confusing about like what exactly I'm referring to. So when I talk about the higher self, I'm talking about the anchored reality where you are living at your greatest potential. It is where you have evolved to the highest possible level of your spiritual self and your physical self. So your higher self is you inside of this body, inside of this incarnation, on in the 3D realm, in this dimension right now. Your higher self is you reaching your greatest potential. So your soul is an abundance of energy that has a set of desires it wants to experience through you. So it is a direct connection between the collective consciousness, God consciousness, whatever it is you want to agree on this energy being called, and your intuition. So one thing that we all can agree about, because all of us have different beliefs, some of us are aligned with different religions, some of us don't believe in religion, but one thing that we all can agree about is there is a massive energy that we are all connected to that is here for us to express something. We have some sort of purpose here, right? But we can all agree that there is a mass energy that connects all of us, and it is greater than any of us, right? That's one thing that no matter what religion, no matter what background you have, we all can agree on that same fact. What you are in connection to that abundance of energy, you are a piece of that energy. So you have the macro, we are the micro of that abundance of energy. So what you are is different perspectives or energetic intentions of that energy that is trying to express itself on earth. That's why we all are very different in terms of what we want to do. You may meet one person and when they were born, they've always wanted to be a doctor. And then you, on the other hand, you're like, I could absolutely never be a doctor. I'm not interested in it. I'm queasy around blood. I don't like science, etc. It is the intentions, and it is the programming that is specific to you based on whatever that energy is trying to express on the planet. So that is what your soul is. Your soul is a piece of that energy and the whatever intentions that it's trying to express through you, right? So that's the difference between the higher self. The soul is what guides you in this incarnation to become your greatest self. So it's almost, and I'm going to say programming a lot, but your soul is the programming in order for you to reach your greatest potential, accomplish whatever goals it is that you have on this planet. And once you get to that point, you are, or not even get to that point, because this is an ever evolving journey. Even when you feel like you've done everything that you've wanted to do on this planet, you're still going to find other things that you're going to want to do. So your higher self isn't necessarily a destination. It is a I don't even want to say perspective, but it is when it's like a feeling. It is a ever evolving intention. It is when you are carrying yourself as, I already know exactly what I want to do, and I'm going to constantly evolve myself and transform myself so that I can continue to evolve and become better and better and better. So I don't want to call it a programming either. It's just really just like this state of mind. That's probably the best way to describe it. Your higher self is this state of mind of constantly being in a place where you are ready and prepared, and you feel the energy and you feel the motivation to continuously express whatever it is your soul wants to express on this planet. So, the path to your higher self is balanced between your intuition and your intentions. So, when you align your intentions and actions with the desires of your soul, you will begin to transform into your higher self over time. So, understand your intuition is literally the voice of your soul, right? Your intuition is constantly giving you direction on things to do, people to talk to, people to not talk to, roads to go down, roads to not go down. Your intuition is very specific to you, because understand the intuitive messages that you're going to receive and you're going to feel are going to be completely different from what the next person is going to be receiving and what they're going to be feeling. So your intuition, remember, that is the voice of your soul. When you're aligning that with your actions and your intentions, then that is when you start to transform into your higher self over time. Your actions and your intentions are not the same thing. So you can have an action to do good, but your intention is bad, right? So, like, for example, let's say you're a guy and you're trying to manipulate a woman to have sex with you. So you're doing all of these really nice things. You're taking her out. You're bringing her places. You're um calling her consistent, like you're checking in with her consistently. You're being polite and you're being a gentleman. Your actions are kind, but your intentions are manipulative. You see how they're different? But let's say, on the other hand, you're a guy and you have the intention of treating a woman right, this particular woman right, marrying her, spending your life with her, making her your equal, making her your partner. So you do all of the same exact things. So remember, so you see how that is different. The intention is different, but the actions, for these two examples, their actions are the same. So you have to make sure that you're aligning your intentions and your actions with what your intuition is trying to tell you to do. So if your intuition is telling you, look, we really think it's important for you to use your gift of teaching. Use your gift of teaching to teach others. And so from there, you take actions and you set the intention for, you're like, look, okay, so the intention that I have for this year, for 2022, is to do things and put myself inside of situations that are going to allow for me to grow as a teacher in whatever subject it is. And so from that, I'm going to again put myself in situations and I'm going to take action that is in alignment with what my soul is telling me to do. You see how that works? And then over time, your soul is expressing itself. It's getting the opportunity to continue express itself. Maybe you haven't quite hit that end goal yet. Maybe it's not 2022, maybe it's not 2023, but because your intentions and your actions are in alignment with what your soul is telling you to do and what your intuition is telling you to do, over time, you start to transform into your higher self. And one thing I will tell you guys is that when you are doing things that your intuition and your soul is when you're doing things that are in alignment with what your intuition and your soul purpose are, those things become so easy to accomplish. The roadblocks are easier to remove, because understand remember how I said we're all connected to God consciousness? If this micro of God consciousness, are doing the work, the soul work of spiritual and soul purpose on this planet, you're doing those things, everything is going to conspire to allow you to express that thing, because everything else is a part of God consciousness too. It understands that you are literally rolling out the programming that you came on earth for. And so all the rest of the energy that is connected to God consciousness, it's going to see that. It's going to feel that. And it's going to be like, okay, we're working like a well-oiled machine here. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to open the roads for you. So that's why it's important to understand that whatever your sole purpose is, you're going to have, it's never going to go away. Like you're always going to want to do that thing, because it's programmed, like it is programming in your whole purpose of being on earth. God consciousness is saying this is your whole reason why you're here. So there's nothing you can do to wipe that away. The only thing that you can do is make things harder for yourself. But when you are acting in alignment with whatever it is that you came on earth to do, it is so easy to get that thing accomplished. And over time, you're just going to see the roads opening for you. You're going to see the universe conspiring to help you. It just becomes really, really easy. So I did go on a little bit of a tangent there, but I wanted to make sure that I made that very, very abundantly clear. All right. So with that, we need to understand the level of consciousness inside of our mental programming in the realms of, I guess, that our thoughts and our emotions and actions and intentions are stored. And these are important because remember how I said the only thing that you could do is, one, make things harder for yourself, and two, get yourself into a place where you're shedding all of these layers that are keeping you from being who your true self is. You got to get to that point where you're shedding and you're reprogramming so you can get back to your soul purpose. And a lot of that has to do with the programming that happened when you were growing up from the influences inside of your life. So when we're talking about the levels of consciousness, we're talking about this because this is how you get your mental state programmed so that you can get back to your true self. So we have 3 levels of consciousness that I want to talk about. You have your subconsciousness that holds your thoughts, your memories, your habits that are constantly on autopilot. So your subconscious is, you can tap into your subconsciousness easily through therapy, through journaling, through just any type of mental work, any type of reflective work, any type of awareness work of you understanding like, okay, I'm making this decision. Why am I making this decision right now? Or I have this morning routine. I'm doing this morning routine because of XYZ, right? So your subconsciousness, you can access all of that very easily. And it's much easier to reprogram your subconsciousness because we're able to access that part of our brain easily. So it stores a lot of our thoughts and our memories and our habits. Our unconsciousness, that is subconscious programming that we cannot directly access. Your unconsciousness is just a realm of suppressed thoughts, suppressed memories, and habits that are just in the back of your brain that you really cannot directly tap into yourself. A lot of times people have to be hypnotized in order to tap into their unconscious thoughts and memories. And a lot of that comes from like when you are asleep, or you can kind of tap into it. But again, it's not something that you can really just like, sit and think about and try to figure out what's going on inside of your unconscious mind. It's just that you don't have access to it yourself. And then you have the collective unconsciousness, which we didn't talk about on my podcast. I did talk about it a little bit on my TikTok, but the collective unconsciousness is the mental connection between all humans that contain our instincts and our archetypes. All humans are directly connected to each other through a energetic, I don't even know if you call it an energy sphere, however, whatever you want to call it, but we are all connected. It's almost like Wi-Fi, right? Like it's a direct connection that we all have to each other that holds the programming for all of humans in existence. Carl Jung is a psychologist that did a lot of research, and his last name is Jung, and it's called Jungian psychology, where they talk about the archetypes and how it is the framework behind human behavior. So there's this is real, this is science. Like, I'm not just making this stuff up, right? But again, this is the collective unconsciousness is another level of consciousness that connects all humans together. So, how can we use this knowledge of our levels of consciousness in order to get ourselves back to our true self? First of all, realigning your level of consciousness is going to be different. Realigning our consciousness is going to be dependent on our levels. So when you're dealing with your subconscious mind, the subconscious part of your mind, you're going to do that through self-awareness. It's like, okay, I have a habit of constantly going out to every single time I watch a basketball game, I always have to order wings. I have to order wings. It is a habit, it is a subconscious habit that I don't know where the programming came from. And maybe the programming came from when you were younger. Every single time you and your family had a sporting event that you watched together, you guys always ordered wings. So that programming followed you into an adult. So now you have that habit, that subconscious habit. Every time you watch basketball, you order wings. It's just something that you always do. But when you become self-aware to say one day you're about to turn on the game and you're like in your app and you're about to order wings and you're like, hold up. My self-awareness is clicked on, I'm about to order wings. Is this something that I need to be doing? Is this something that is in alignment with my soul purpose and in alignment with my higher self? If I tell myself my higher self is healthy, my higher self makes healthy eating choices, my higher self does not spend money on eating out, only spends money eating out once a week, and that does not include when I'm watching basketball. If I'm defining my higher self as these things, then that means that the decision that I'm making right now is out of alignment with my higher self. So that means that is a habit that needs to be reprogrammed. So realigning your subconsciousness requires self-awareness. When it comes to your unconsciousness, that requires reprogramming. Now, that is a little bit harder. Now, some of the techniques that you can do yourself, like intentionally, in order to reprogram your unconsciousness, are affirmations, speaking affirmations over yourself, doing guided meditations, and I'm trying to think of another thing that you can do, but ultimately you can reprogram your brain by putting content inside of your head, such as words of affirmations, listening to meditations, watching videos that are in alignment with whatever it is that you want to reprogram. Over time, that reprogramming starts to embed itself inside of your unconsciousness, and then it just starts to become natural. So for example, if we're going back to eating healthy and things like that, you can intentionally yourself say health affirmations over yourself. You can intentionally listen to meditations around healthy eating when you go to sleep. But what you can also do is make sure that the content that you are receiving, like for example, when you're on social media, when you're reading books, when you are watching YouTube videos, making sure that content is in alignment with you saying that, okay, I want to be healthy. I don't need to be following TikToks of people cooking cheesesteak egg rolls and people making cheeseburgers and eating, you know what I'm saying, eating bad stuff. eating stuff covered in cheese and butter, and even though it sounds delicious because it sounds good, but if you're saying that you want to reprogram your mind for so that you're making more healthy eating choices, then being intentional about the content that you ingest is one way that you can reprogram your brain. So then over time, it just becomes natural. Over time, you're like, you know what? That just doesn't look appetizing to me. What looks appetizing to me is the salads, is the balanced meals of the chickens and or vegetarian meals or whatever it is that you want. That is one way that you can intentionally reprogram your brain, even though you don't have direct you can't directly tap into your unconsciousness. And then on the last level, the collective unconsciousness. Understand the collective unconsciousness. Like I said, it is a mental connection that all humans have to other humans in regards to our programming. It's our baseline programming. But remember, every human has different programming. And a lot of it has to do with their soul and their spirit. But what you can do is intentionally align yourself with a version of a human that you feel like is in alignment with who your higher self is, mentally aligning yourself with them so that you start to receive that programming. So, for example, let's say we'll use the healthy eating, for example. Let's say that I am somebody that really wants to eat healthy. So I'm going to find someone that is as close to that version of my higher self as possible. So for me, that would be, I don't know, I'm going to make somebody up because I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. But for me, it is a doctor that I follow on Instagram. So what I'm going to do in order to intentionally align myself with her energy, I am going to go on her Instagram. What is she eating? What are the books that she's reading? What are how does she talk? How does she carry herself? I'm going to intentionally study her and study her programming. How does she say that she eats? Does she have a book that I can read? I'm going to go read one of her books. Does she have any interviews on YouTube that I can watch? I'm going to go watch that. And I'm going to study her to see if I can absorb and I can align myself to the energy of her programming. So that is one way that you can realign yourself to the collective unconsciousness. And understand that if whatever it is in alignment with your higher self, it's going to be very easy for you to activate your programming. Because understand, the only reason we're doing this is to align yourself to who your true self is. So if whatever it is, whatever that intention is really in alignment with your higher self, you already have the same programming. You just may have to activate it. Sorry, somebody texted me. You just may have to get that programming activated. And that's why I say, find somebody that feels very close to your higher self and study them, study their energy, study what it feels like their programming is. And then over time, you will start to feel your own programming activate. All right. So how do we elevate ourselves spiritually? And I'm going to take a sip of my drink really fast. All right. How do we elevate ourselves spiritually? The first thing we need to do is we need to heal. We must heal the unconscious and subconscious parts of ourselves so we can reclaim control over our actions and our beliefs. You guys have to understand, a lot of the actions and a lot of emotions that we are carrying out day to day that are just based outside of our awareness, they're out of our control. This is programming from when we were children, based on the people that we were around and the environments that we were in. A lot of it has to do with trauma. A lot of it has to do with triggers. A lot of it has to do is based around our survival. So what we have to do is heal those parts of ourselves so that we can start reclaiming control over our actions, and we can start reclaiming control over our emotions. And once you start reclaiming control over your emotions and your actions and becoming very self-aware of what's going on, you become a master of your mind. And then all of those triggers and all of that programming won't even matter anymore. Then that is what true self-mastery looks like. Then The next thing we would have to do is we have to learn how to manifest and attract things for ourselves. And that's another step to elevating yourself spiritually. So we must learn how to connect with our intuition so we are making aligned choices and become more intentional about where we are focusing our energy. That is what manifestation and attraction really is. It's about taking our intuition, using that as guidance for our actions and for our choices, and being intentional and about our energy, and being intentional about our intentions just in general, and zoning it down on whatever it is that we want inside of our life, till the point that it naturally just manifests, and it naturally just we just naturally attract it to ourselves. And then the last thing we do is the self mastery piece, which is the long term sustainability piece in this entire thing. And that is learning how to transmute negative energy and aligning every interaction that we have with our higher self so that it reaffirms our greatness. Understand that you're always going to come across situations that are going to be re-triggering for you. You're always going to come across people that feel like they suck, or people that are trying to tear you down. Like, you're always going to come across people like that. But what we have to do in order to make sure that we are truly masters over our lives and ourselves is learning how to transmute that energy and using it to our advantage so that we continuously turn it into a cycle of reaffirmation. Even though I got put in this negative situation, I'm going to use this situation as an example of why I am becoming my greatest self. And that'll make a lot of sense later on. We'll get to that point in a later presentation. All right, so I wrote something called the Higher Self Manifesto, and this is really just again, like I told you, a reprogramming technique. So this is something that you can use to start your reprogramming journey of in order for you to start transforming into your higher self. And you can read it, one time, you can read it a few times, but what I always recommend people do is record themselves reading it, and then they can replay it for themselves, and you can use that as a reprogramming technique, is you listening to yourself say this manifesto, and then eventually it can, like I said before, about embedding into your unconsciousness. So this is what it says, and I'm just going to read it for the people that aren't watching this on YouTube. It says, regardless of what we've been through, and regardless of what you think about yourself, you are loved and worthy of love. You will learn this many times on this journey to wholeness. You will learn this first through how you treat yourself, which will define how others treat you. You will experience joy because joy will become your natural state. And you will be certain you have always been deserving of joy through my actions and my words. Your potential is limitless and bound by no man or power. I will always see you with no expectations for perfection, but only with the encouragement for you to love yourself in every version of yourself. I am always rooting for you. I am proud of you, and I can't wait for you to see what I see. So this manifesto is you reading this to yourself. You are telling yourself, I love you regardless of what you think about yourself. You are always going to be worthy of love, and how others treat you are going to be based around how I treat me, how you treat you. You know what I mean? And you don't have any expectations for yourself to be perfect. You just have your expectations for yourself to continue to push yourself to move forward. So this is just a positive manifesto that you can kind of just embed inside of your unconsciousness that can reprogram the way that you think and the way that you talk to yourself. So that's ultimately what the higher self manifesto is. All right, so just a little bit of homework, and yeah, this is just a little bit of homework that I have for you guys that you can do if you're really interested in beginning this transformation and this reprogramming journey. So the first thing is, like I said, recording yourself reading the Higher Self Manifesto and playing it for yourself as often as you want to. The idea is just for you to change the programming in your brain. And then the second thing is writing a letter to your old self, which will contain a goodbye, saying, look, I need to transform. This is why. And you acknowledging that you're still proud of your old self. I love you. And I'm understanding and I'm empathetic of everything that you've been through. But it's really time for me to start moving forward and changing the way that I live. And what I always would tell my clients is like, once you write that letter to yourself, you burn it and you just release it and get really excited about what your journey is going to look like. So I don't have my contact information on here, but I'm just going to reiterate: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are all BJ the Blogger. They're all the same as the name that I have on YouTube, which is at BJ the Blogger. But the only thing that's different is my podcast. My podcast is called Soul Patterns. So if you are listening, if you are watching this on YouTube, if you want to listen to this in a podcast form, then excuse me, the name of it is Soul Patterns, and you can find it literally on every like every podcast platform. Okay, so we are going to continue this series of becoming our greatest self over the next few weeks. I'm really excited to go through this with you guys, and I will catch you next week. Bye.